Okay, so, hey everyone. As you may or may not know, I am, a bit of a music, nut, kinda. And so, I feel like, I wanted to, start expressing that more and more on this channel. And recently, I mean, I watched a bunch of other people show their tier lists and their rankings of some of those, of like their favorite albums, some specific discographies by their favorite bands, and I was inspired to do that myself. I'm blatantly admitting that this is a rip off. Plenty of people have done that already. But hey, I'm doing this by interest, and who knows, maybe this will get maybe a lot of people will watch it, or this will get buried into like a bunch of people already doing it. But you know what, I'm gonna admit it straight through. This is completely unoriginal, and the band I have picked right now is completely unoriginal. It's a band that is talked about a lot here, is because it is the most popular music group ever, but it's a group that is already beloved by a lot of people, but that includes me, despite the fact that they don't necessarily align with my music tastes, because I have been a metalhead. I have listened to a lot of metal for most of my teens, most of my years where I was really interested in music, and for a while I kind of I wasn't really interested in more of your typical, more of essential rock and pop music and stuff like that. But recently I've gone back into checking out some of those essential quote unquote bands, and yeah, I have had a great time checking those bands. Although I have said that I have only checked out this band recently. But that's actually not true. Yeah, so obviously I'm talking about the Beatles, who are, again, the most famous, most popular music group in history, one of the most influential and one of the most essential, which, to a point where nowadays, people are kind of doubting, are kind of trying their best to discredit them, and I'm like, honestly, you can say whatever you want about them. They're a group. I have had my phase, as I said, of me trying to be like, meh, this is just a bunch of silly fucking love songs. It's too cheesy for me. Where are the fucking growly vocals and guitar solos? But yeah, I feel like has recently, the Beatles are a band that are very near and dear to my heart, because I have this might have been the first band that I have really heard a lot in my life, because and it connects with my other interest of me and video games, because my first exposure to the Beatles and my first exposure to a band in general was when I first played the Beatles Rock Band on Wii. On plastic guitar, and me and my dad, we fucking bonded on playing. He first showed me, I think, one of the trailers, and I heard Revolution, and then I played more, and when I heard more of it, he showed me the medley and stuff like that. We eventually got all of that, of the Abbey Road deal. I think we got all the DLC, including Abbey Road, and so I've heard Abbey Road in full, including the medley. Actually, I'll talk about this album later and how important it is to me, but so I won't talk about it too much right now. But to me, this is the Beatles to me are a pretty important group into my development. And to me being introduced to music and my development as someone who has so much interest in music, and they're a band that I have known, and I have known for the longest time, and I can safely say I think I have a lot of history, and I have a lot of I can basically talk about a lot about them. In more recent years, I have gotten really interested into their history and everything, and it's really fascinating, and also the whole the memeier aspects of the band's history as well and their music. So, you know, it might have fucked with my own taste, but I won't talk too much anymore. I'm just gonna say, so yeah, I've done a deep dive into their discography in December, right before the Get Back documentary came out, which, by the way, is really fucking cool. I think everyone kind of agrees that it's a really fucking cool documentary. I've watched bits. I watched most of it. Yeah, it's great. And yeah, I will. You know, I think this is the point. I was like, yeah, fuck, let's go ahead and listen to their entire discography. And I think I already was knowledgeable enough that, you know, it was gonna take some time to get good. But I think in the end, you know, there's definitely some of my favorite albums of all time in this. You know, I think. Fucking let's stop talking. Let's stop doing. Let's stop rambling about this shit. You know, let's fucking get into the album. Let's get into the ranking. Let's fucking do this. Okay, so first of all, Please Please Me, you know, their debut album released in 1963. It's really much one thing you'll notice about the Beatles is, you know, they kind of came in and you gotta give them a lot of credit for this, I guess, but they kind of came in and in the 60s, and they kind of like evolved along with how music was released over the years, as well as like, you know, them developing, you know, music and pushing the boundaries themselves. They were really important. Like, this is a thing that people kind of just want to like set aside nowadays, but I feel like they because of how like ahead they were, I think that even if some other bands might have like done stuff, some more experimental stuff before them, I think the fact that they already like had like, they came in so strongly and were already like so tight as a band and had, you know, I think the fact that they made that impression at first and they stayed so popular, they managed to make it so accessible yet so experimental over the years, I think is definitely a thing it's definitely probably why they get so much credit for this. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna go back to Please Please Me. Yeah, so this is definitely the Beatles that people kind of like are like about, including me, because it's short, quick, you know, rock and roll, love songs and stuff like that. Very, very simple, very basic. Half of the album is covers because, you know, that's the album was recorded in a couple days. Actually, no, not even a couple days, in a single day. And yeah, they were back then, you know, it was really common to put a lot of covers on your albums. Sounds almost 60 years old. That's insane. But to be fair, I don't think it's a bad album at all. It has some weaker points, but, you know, I think the opener, I saw her standing there, you know, despite some of the lyrics, I think it has, like, you know, it has a great groove. It has great, you know, it starts the album with a lot of energy. And then, of course, throughout the album, like, they already, like, have, you know, show, like, what they're good at, which was especially their harmonies. I think all the songs, despite the rough production, are already very well performed, and they already, like, you know, sound like a bit rough around the edges, as I said, but, you know, the performances are definitely already there. The harmonies are very tight, and, you know, some of those songs, you know, it's charming, I guess. They have some, I kind of like, some of the covers are from like old, it's mostly R&B doo-wop songs. And yeah, they're very cheesy. I don't know if they do the best renditions of them, but I don't know. I didn't have too bad of a time listening to those. Yeah, besides that, I kind of like their cover of Boys, Please Please Me. They have a few originals here. Love Me Do is kind of basic, but it's their first song. And then, of course, their cover of Twist and Shout is absolutely fucking amazing. Just a lot of energy and amazing vocal performance by John, who was like sick, I think, at the time, and he fucking, you know what, he did the most of it in his hoary, like, ragged voice, like, did a lot to make this, like, probably the most iconic version of that song out there. But to be fair, let's not mince words here. This is very cheesy. There's not that much substance to it. Even a bit, I guess, cheesy to a point where it's a bit cringeworthy. You know, it's not the most, like, to modern standards, it's not the most accessible album of theirs. But But yeah, uh, I still think that it's a pretty decent. It's rough. There's not a lot to it. But it was their first album. You gotta give them credit for that. And they kind of like were unique at the time, and they kind of became an instant success because thanks to this album. You gotta give it credit, even though I don't think it aged the best. And yeah, they would definitely like severely outperform this album. This is where the seeds for like their monumental discography would be planted. So yeah, give it credit aside. I mean, I kind of went back and forth. I think even some of the stronger songs were they're a bit basic. But yeah, I think this album will go in C, because even despite its strengths, I think again the album, its simplicity, its and its overall like really cheesiness, kind of does it a bit. Like, it's not gonna be the most mind-blowing listen ever. Just let me say this. And unfortunately, the Beatles would kind of, because they'll have to release an album like within because this is how releasing records at the time, people they fucking like crank those, like they had contracts that were you were release record like multiple records every month back in the day. I think the Beach Boys, who came out around the same time, they had to release like 3 albums per year, and that meant a lot of filler, a lot of covers for a lot of those artists who were releasing albums because they weren't really thought of as like one thing. They were just meant as like a compilation of singles. So yeah, sometimes they would have singles in them, sometimes they won't. Sometimes I think the singles could have like helped with the track list. Yeah, it was a big old mess. Don't even get me started on like the differences between American and British albums. I'm only going by the fucking British canon because this is like because this is the real canon for the Beatles. I guess you could say. But yeah, with the Beatles, to me, is their weakest effort. I think Please Please Me has some energy, some charm, but I feel like this sound on With the Beatles, it feels like it has not improved. I think their originals do sound a bit stronger, but the covers are just a lot weaker. They feel like they take up more room. And oh my god, there's so much cheese. There's so much fucking 50s cheese on this. Oh my god. Till There Was You and Devil in Her Heart are just, oh my god, are just snores. And Little Child is the worst Beatles song they have ever written. It is, first of all, that title, it's oh my god, and the way they sing the main line and the harmonicas, and it's annoying to a point where it's kind of hilarious, but oh my god, I don't like this album. Even the songs that people give it a bit more credit, like All My Loving, I'm like, man, I've listened to a whole album of this already. Can we please get something different? Those like cheesy like fucking love songs. Oh my god, please give me something. To be fair, it has some cool tracks out there. I like Don't Bother Me, which is George Harrison's first song. And I Want to Be Your Man, I think I kind of like as well. But to be fair, to me, this is by far the Beatles' weakest effort. This is something needed to change at this point. They needed to really like, step up their game at this point, because this is a painfully middling release. I don't know if I would put it in C or D because it's not that bad, but if there was a D tier Beatles album, it's definitely this one. It's really just it's probably the roughest like thing you'll have to go. It's like if you're gonna do a whole like chronological order Beatles discography, this is probably gonna be like the roughest part. If you can get through this, well then it's only uphill from there. Thankfully, A Hard Day's Night is a massive improvement in terms of, first of all, this album is all originals. It's all original songs, and it starts immediately. I think they have stepped up their craft they took a massive step in only a few months. and they start pushing the boundaries of that, even though it's that same like pop rock sound that they've had on those first couple albums. The fact it's all their songs with their attitude and stuff, it really makes it, it gives it more energy. It gives it, and also they kind of try to push the boundaries with some cool chord progressions and also chords. Like the album kicks off with a chord that took I think people took years to even decipher, but it's, oh my god, A Hard Day's Night is the first fucking go-tier Beatles song. It has so much energy. It's so iconic. I love the chord, how it starts. That solo, the ending, with the arpeggio. It's so fucking cool. It's such a good song. I mean, if it wasn't YouTube, I would fucking show you clips of the songs, but fucking hell. And you know what? I mean, it still has a bit of that early Beatles cheese to it. But you know what? I think it has some interesting sounds, and it's a pretty consistent album as well. I don't think there's really any track that is particularly weak. It's a really strong album overall. And also I think they stepped up their game in terms of production. This is the first album that was recorded on a 4-track tape machine. Yeah, the history of production is really intertwined with the history of the Beatles. So yeah. This is absolutely a massive improvement to their predecessor. It is the best of the classic era Beatles album in my book. It's their most consistent. So it's going into A tier for me. It's just a solid, consistent, great listen with a lot of energy. Yeah, of course it has some of its calmer moments, but even the calmer songs, like the ballads are very beautiful and very well written. Yeah, I think at this point the Beatles are definitely starting to push themselves with their sound. And this they would keep pushing the boundaries of their sound on their next album, which is the criminally underrated Beatles for Sale. An album that gets a lot of flack. It is consistently ranked as their worst album. It's either that, Yellow Submarine, or with the Beatles, it's the worst Beatles album. But in my book, I disagree. I think I get it in a way, because this is also, they rushed it for the holidays, because again, this is how fucking contracts worked back then. You had to fucking crank out multiple albums and singles every year, more song, more stuff, and usually it just means you just had to load up with covers. But at this point, I feel like they've already met up with Bob Dylan at this point, and they started to have some of that influence into them. Those folkier, more introspective songs started to come in. They couldn't really flesh it out that much, unfortunately, but you have you have great stuff on here. It starts not with a bang, but kind of with a really cool song, No Reply. Yes, it's the Your Face song for those who are familiar with the Beatles memes. Your Face. That watch the clip on the outtake on the anthology is fucking great, and watch that edit as well. It's Beatles memes. I know them. Peace and love. And all that. When we get to the White Album, you'll know how much Beatles memes have influenced me and my taste. Besides that, yeah, I'm a loser. Despite being still very upbeat, I kind of like how it's very I feel like their melodies are starting to get more interesting as well. Babies in Black, and then even the covers, I think, although the song is The Sun is a very, it's all acoustic. But it's also it's kind of like a predecessor to their iconic song Yesterday, which we'll talk about later. In a sense, it's them setting their roots for their more introspective songs. And then there's a lot, and 8 Days a Week sounds fucking, it's a basic cheesy love song, but it sounds so good. The production got way better. This is probably the best sounding album of their early era. I give this album a lot of credit. Unfortunately, again, a lot of covers, but I feel like some of the covers are actually pretty good or pretty well performed. I like rock and roll music. I like Kansas City / Hey 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 Hey. I think the Words of Love covers actually sounds pretty good as well. Yeah, besides that, I feel like the album is kind of like half and half. You know, I think the covers, most of them, they aren't the strongest thing. Like the second half of the album isn't very strong, but I think it's well performed, it's solid, it sounds good, and the great songs, you know, it truly shows the most amount of growth in the Beatles at this point. Actually, no, I mean, Hard Day's Night, but still, this definitely shows a lot of growth, and I think people kind of need to acknowledge this a lot more. That this is an improvement. Like, this isn't that different from Please Please Me and with the Beatles, but it sounds so much better. So yeah, please give this album more credit. It's going to into B because it's not that consistent. It's not, you know, it's a bit, it's kind of weaker. It kind of had to be, unfortunately, but they would have more time and more room to experiment with those folk influences on their next album, Help, which was their second. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention A Hard Day's Night was a movie soundtrack for, you know, a movie that was like, you know, all about following the Beatles and their funny antics around. The Beatles were truly the fucking original, like, fucking... They definitely had, like... If they were born in this generation, they would probably connect with our humor pretty well. Yeah, apparently it's a pretty good... It's a really good movie, and it's really funny. You know, it's... And it has a lot... It has a lot of great songs. And then they made another one, which was, you know, a fucking batshit insane, like James Bond type parody called Help, and you know, then you know that apparently that movie is it's pretty good too. And yeah, the soundtrack is very unique. It's a step forward again through to their next album, which was, you know, more introspective lyrics and also more folk influences. You know, really drifting away from their pop rock sound. I believe it's called like Mersey Beat or something. But yeah, Help is a fucking. It's like this second Hard Day's Night. You know, a lot of energy. It's just great melody, catchy. It's just a great song. I love it. It's one of their best songs at that first half of their discography. And you know, there's some good ones all over it. You know, Got to Hide Your Love Away. Ticket to Ride. I've Just Seen a Face, and of course, Yesterday is a monumental song, and it's really, he pushed it. It's like the first song. It's not just a band. It's like just Paul, a guitar, and an orchestra. It's a beautiful breakup song. It's like a point where the Beatles, like, you know, it's them like really announcing what's about to come. You know. Unfortunately, it's the penultimate track because they have their cover of Dizzy Miss Lizzy following it. Yeah, unfortunately, this album has a lot of weak songs. I mean, some cool ones here and there. Yeah, Dizzy Miss Lizzy with that riff playing the whole way through. I kind of like how it closes the album, but also, fuck off. Why? Yesterday was so good. I guess they would kind of have a habit of like trolling you with those closers for the next couple albums. And also, I Need You, that sloppy ass volume pedal is absolutely insufferable. And a lot of this album, I think, sounds very rough. The production is not very top notch, you know. It's a very rough, messy album, as what I can tell. And unfortunately for me, I don't think it. I think it's better. It's more complete than Beatles for Sale, but it's not one of their strongest work at all. It doesn't outdo Hard Day's Night for me. So in my book, I think this will go into B tier right above Hard. Now this is when we're going to start to rank those albums. So yeah, by the way, the closer it is to the letter, the higher it is. So yeah, Help above Hard Day's Night. This is how it goes. But yeah, they would still kind of like polish, you know, work with those influences later that year with their first quote-unquote masterpiece album, Rubber Soul, which it's just an amazing album. This is when the Beatles like truly start to click, you know. Drive My Car is a fucking banger with that guitar riff, and then it immediately goes into the beautiful Norwegian Wood. The lyrics kind of start to have, you know, to vary more, I think. Nowhere Man, The Word, Michelle, and Girl are beautiful. What goes on is charming. I'm looking through you, despite how messy it is. It's kind of, I think I actually really like it. It has some great lyrics. Oh my god, In My Life is the most beautiful fucking song they've written at this point. I love it so fucking much. If I is someone. But then again, just like the last album, they kind of end like, not like a very like beautiful, like closer. They just go with that, go back to that energetic sound, but they push it to the point where, like, I don't know, it's a bit like, how do you then, can I explain my feelings on Run For Your Life? Because I actually think this song is kind of funny, but in a really twisted, dark way. It kind of connects with my edgy, dark sense of humor, because it pushes the obsession of the guy with the girl to the point where he'll kill her if he sees her with another. Like, he goes full yandere mode, and but it's played so straight. It's almost hilarious. But also, knowing the history of some of the band members, it's kind of tough, but also, I don't know. I mean, other songs I don't think are that amazing. I don't know about You Won't See Me or Wait, or again, What Goes On. And I feel like other albums will definitely push the sound even further, push their sound like even further with all this experimentation and stuff like that. But goddamn, some of those songs are just really beautiful. It flows really well. This is one of the first albums, you could say. It inspired Pet Sounds, you know. It's honestly, I could put it into S tier. It's probably their first S tier album. But I think this will really be skewed into like all S tier. It's gonna be very lopsided at some point, so I'm sorry, but I don't know. It could go into A because it kind of ends on an odd note, but yeah, it still needs some polishing here. But I still think it's a substantial improvement from A Hard Day's Night. So let's put an S. It's just a great album, great album. And they would push experimentation even further by doing bunch of studio fuckery on Revolver. This album is really fucking good. It is the Beatles album, basically. It's like the current favorites because it's given a lot of credit for being basically when the Beatles fully embraced experimentation. Immediately on Taxman with that, you know, start-stop guitar. If it's driven by the bass, it has those political lyrics by George. It's of course, George is like the best Beatle, you know, low-key. He should have been good. Like, he was this dare chilling most of the time, you know, just being a damn good guitar player. And then when he came up with the song, he would always give you the banger, you know. Never really got himself into too much shit, you know. The best. Just a good bloke. Good talented bloke. But also, not to discredit the other members, I think there's a lot to give the credit. There's a lot I can give credit to them as well. You know, even Ringo. Speaking of like, you know, Taxman, you know, that it's really where the Beatles start getting really weird with the reverse guitar solo, and then Eleanor Rigby, you know, just I've given credit to George, but then let's give credit to Paul. Eleanor Rigby it's short, but it's already like, you know, it's so different from what was released at the time, and anything really. It's just a string quartet and the voices of Paul, and I think harmonies, just talking about, you know, just with great weird a bit lyrics about, you know, people, you know, just living, and then like their lives and then just being forgotten after their deaths, I guess, you know? It's like, I don't know how to really explain this because I'm a fucking brainlet. But yeah, I think the songs just get better with I'm Only Sleeping. Oh my god, it's probably their most underrated, one of their most underrated songs, but it goes so hard. It's so weird and psychedelic, you know, and hazy, and I kind of love it. It has that bass lick, you know. I love it so much. My favorite of the album, probably. Oh my god, it's so good. Then there's the weird, like, at this point, George had fully embraced his Eastern Indian influences. I think they already experimented with sitar on Norwegian Wood, but then they would go like full blown on it with I Love You Too, which is a cool song. Not my favorite though. Here, There, and Everywhere is beautiful. Yellow Submarine is a classic, and you know what? It's not their best song, but it's cool to hear their, you know, that they actually use it as a good platform for studio experimentation and stuff like that. She Said, Good Day Sunshine, and Your Bird Ginseng goes hard. I guess I got to get you into my life, you know, those horns, that guitar lick, you know, and then the ultimate culmination of all of those sounds. Tomorrow Never Knows is probably their most psychedelic track. Not probably their most, but one of their most, and it's really the basically where they kick off the whole psychedelic era right there with this recording, which was just made out of a bunch, you know, of loops and, you know, reversing things. It's for with the technology that made this, it's super impressive and it sounds amazing with that drum groove, that reverse guitar solo, and John's vocals, you know, super processed vocals with only like tape and stuff, you know, and just all analog technology. It's super impressive and it sounds amazing to this day. Even in mono. By the way, don't fucking listen to the Beatles albums in stereo. Until like Yellow Submarine, Abbey Road, Let It Be, and all. Don't fucking listen to Beatles albums in stereo, because especially the 2009 versions. I don't know what's the difference with the different versions, but because they were recorded with like limited technology, you know, 2 to 4 tracks of tape. They don't really have. It's kind of hard to really do panning with those albums, with those recordings, and thus what would usually happen, especially on stereo albums at the time, it was really experimental as well. They had to basically pan like the vocals basically on one ear and then the instruments on another, and it's a really just it turns you off from like the whole listening experience. It's probably a reason why some people like kind of don't really want to get into the Beatles. They kind of like are turned off by them. No, for real, don't fucking listen to the mono records, except I think the exceptions I'll give are like, because unfortunately they're not available on streaming. This is the other really rough thing. Those albums are not available on streaming in mono. You'll probably have to find, I think you can buy them physically, though again, good luck. You really need to be already like committed to get those albums in mono if you really want them. Well, of course, there's other options, but yeah. But by the way, the mixes, the remixes done by Giles Martin that were released, like, you know, to culminate the 50th anniversary of some of their most iconic albums, Sgt. Pepper's White Album, Abbey Road, Let It Be, are excellent. They sound amazing. They rejuvenate those albums so well, and honestly, I think those are like I feel like if you want to experience the whole discography, listen to them in mono, because this is basically how those albums like discovered, and really how they were meant to be heard initially. But then you listen to those, and then you can listen to those new mixes, and then you make up your own mind on this one if you prefer it, you know. Maybe some people just prefer listening to the Beatles in mono because, you know, it's how they were intended to be mixed. You know, the Beatles were actually there when they mixed the albums in mono, but then like they, when it came to mixing them in stereo, they were just like done like a couple of days. Let's just fucking pan this right there and the other right here. Who fucking gives a shit, you know? But this is a problem with a lot of early stereo albums. So basically, if you're willing to, don't fucking listen to the Beatles in stereo, especially if the streaming versions. Honestly, you should just jump in and listen to like a 2019 remix of like their most essential albums are basically remix, but unfortunately not Revolver and Rubber Soul, and that hurts a lot. Yeah, so this stings. And unfortunately, Revolver was straight up recorded onto those 4 tracks, so it's gonna be harder to remix. I really wish they do figure it out, but alas, we can only hope for you know, Paul to fucking finally put out those albums and fucking mono on streaming. Please do. The Beach Boys do. Please do that, Paul. Anyways, Revolver, I think there's a couple weaker tracks here and there, so it's not like my favorite, but come on. Like, I want to tell you is like weird dissonant piano riff. Why? But still, though, Revolver, fucking amazing ass S-tier album, you know, it's gonna be... Of course, going above a Rubber Soul, it's so fucking good. And now, let's get to the big boy. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Probably, this has been, for the longest time, called the greatest, the best album ever made. The album. It. The album where every other album comes from. And of course, it has been praised as like this amazing thing by a lot of mainstream publications who, until like, you know, then the internet happened and a lot of people were like, wait a minute, kind of started to, you know, express their opinions. We're like, wait a minute, no, their opinions are, their opinions are bullshit, to be fair. Some of those, you know, magazines' opinions are pretty fucking bad, but also their opinions, and they're just really bad attempts at, you know, trying objectivity. And so, yeah, over the years on the internet, people have really tried to dismiss Sgt. Pepper as, like, overrated and, you know, not all that. Saying that Revolver was better and stuff like that, you know, or the White Album or Abbey Road or whatever. Yeah, really, or Magical Mystery Tour. So to me, I heard about how weird it was going to be. It has a lot of, it's really experimental. It tries a lot of different sounds, orchestras and stuff like that. It's not a very conventional album. It's also very poppy and stuff like that. Anyway, like, it's not necessarily experimental, but it's also very experimental. I don't know how to fucking describe this album, but it's nuts. And I came with low expectations, you know, that was kind of be like, yeah, it's okay, but it's not Abbey Road though. But after listening to this album for the first time, it immediately clicked with me. This is, for its time, fucking monumental. I get it. You can say whatever you want about this album, but you cannot deny it's a monumental piece of music history. And the songs still go hard. I fucking love the title track and how they basically introduced this band as like, you know, this concept that was, there were basically like a bunch of different artists on doing a performance, you know, and basically introduced like all this whole variety of different songs. And yeah, it starts with a rock song, and then, you know, with a little help from my friends, is just such a bop. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, I don't know if it's my favorite Beatles song ever, but it has so many cool sounds, getting better. You know, I love that fucking, like, very percussive guitar riff, love it. And also that lyric, but, you know, that lyric, it escalates quickly, let me just say that. Fixing a Hole is a fucking super underrated song, by the way. Like, it has a lot of really cool, like, instrumental textures. They try so many instruments on this. This one has like fucking harpsichords or something. And also that guitar, like, again, I fucking love my riffs, my licks, you know, that stay in my head like this. You know, just give me any song with a great riff and it'll be like and I'll fucking have this in my head the whole time and I'll fucking love it. I love this song. It's so underrated. She's Living Home is absolutely fucking beautiful. Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite is super trippy and weird, but it executes its idea super well. With You Without You is the superior, like, Indian influence George Harrison song. George Harrison, don't at me. When I'm 64 is kind of cute and charming and stuff like that. Lovely Rita is not my favorite. You know, it's pretty. People shit on Good Morning, and I'm like, how fucking dare you? I guess the idea of it being abrasive is a bit like it's the idea. It's supposed to be like wake the fuck up and stuff like that, but no, it's actually just a really cool song, you know, about, you know, just waking up. And speaking of waking up, we're gonna get there later. The reprise of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, you know, has so much energy and I love it. And then the album's magnum opus, A Day in the Life. Oh my god, this song is so cool. It's so beautiful. It has amazing lyrics and it has that escalation and stuff like that. That build up. Like, first of all, that's how the song builds, you know. The piano and then the acoustic. I read the news today, oh boy. And then when the drums start coming in, and then it's such a beautiful song. And then I love to turn you. And then the orchestra builds up. It's so cool. And then, you know, the woke up, flew out of bed part. And then, you know, that amazing ending, you know. And then that chord. It's fucking great. And then it's not even where it ends because there's that weird loop at the end. It's such a weird, cool album to me. And I'm like, I get it. Is it my favorite album ever? Well, it's the best. Well, it's saying that's said about a lot of albums. Fucking hell, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is the best album ever. It's not even the best Beatles album. So, something I'm gonna say about other bands, by the way. Yeah, but to me, this album's fucking great. It's fucking S tier. It's going over Revolver. A lot of people want to say, like, no, Revolver is the better album for some reason. And I'm like, eat shit. You know, Revolver might have come first and been more experimental, but come on. Sgt. Pepper's is the more, you know, consistent, more cohesive work. And the one that just really brings on, like, a more confidence into, like, making this grand artistic statement. Yeah. Is it my favorite thing to listen to ever? Not really. I love it, but I have more favorite Beatles albums. Magical Mystery Tour is fucking weird because this is another movie soundtrack, and so yeah, so it's another movie soundtrack, and thus it's it was also made for, like, it was a movie that they made all by themselves and was really weird and not very good, as far as I know. But the songs they made for it are pretty good. Not the best. I don't know if it's their best work ever, unfortunately. But they're cool. They're charming. You know, they're kind of charming. I just listened to it like yesterday. And yeah, like Magical Mystery Tour, you know, the opening is kind of cool. And The Fool on the Hill is a really cool song as well, with different vibe. Flying, I think, is one of their very few instrumentals, and if not only yeah, pretty much. It has a cool vibe to it. I like it. And all those songs are really cool. You know, Blue Jay Way, it's super dark. Your Mother Should Know, you know, charming, Paul, granny music. I think they're all pretty catchy. Some of them are pretty catchy and they're neat and all. Are they top tier Beatles songs? It's hard to say. They're just Beatles songs, you know. At this point, they were at the top of their game. But then you have the fucking awesome banging, you know, I Am the Walrus is just the coolest fucking song ever they ever made. And it has, again, all those sonic textures. It kind of like, it rocks. It's a very, like, you know, it really rocks, but also it has those textures, you know, those weird keyboards and orchestras, and has, you know, those really weird lyrics which have no fucking meaning. It was just John fucking with people trying to analyze their music and just saying shit. But it's performed, it has such a powerful performance, it has so many textures, you know, it's just amazing. It's one of my favorite Beatles songs for sure. And then yeah, because this album is weird, because this is where the album ends. It's a double EP, like double 7-inch EP, I think. It's how it was released in the UK, and they were like, man, fuck that. So people actually consider the US version the canon version, and it has a bunch of singles that were released at the time, like Hello Goodbye, which is a nice song, you know, Penny Lane. Maybe Your Rich Man is super weird and all, but I kind of like it. All You Need Is Love is a classic, you know. But Strawberry Fields Forever, man, it's such a beautiful song, you know. It's so weird and unique. It's It's dark. It has those amazing lyrics. It's... Oh my god, I love this song so much. So this album, honestly, is going into... It's not as strong as those first... I think, honestly, you know what I'll do? I think I'll get Rubber Soul and Magical Mystery Tour in A. For how good they are... Because for how good they are, I don't think they're as strong as, like, that big... Those, like, big 4 albums that I'm gonna, like... talk about soon. So, yeah. I'm gonna elaborate on soon, but yeah, this is still like, it has, most of the songs are like, they're good, but they're solid, but yeah. Oh my god. I don't know if I should bump down like Hard Day's Night and like A. I think what I'll do is basically create another tier. Wait a sec. No. How the hell do I make another tier? How to row above? Yeah. So this will be A plus, and I'll put Magical Mystery Tour and Rubber Soul here. Yeah. So and also let's just give it a better color. This honestly, let's just make it. I like how this looks. So basically, yeah, this complexifies the tier list a little. I wanted to stay within like the tiers right there, but you know what? Fuck this shit. Yeah. So back to actual studio albums, because again, technically a soundtrack and also technically an EP. So does it really count as one of their albums? I don't know. Shut up. Now let's talk about an album that is quite controversial with their fans, but for a lot of reasons. It's considered one of their best, but it is definitely an odd one because it was made at a time when, you know, really band relations kind of started to go to shit. And they were all doing this like on their own with their own ideas, and you know, it's not like a cohesive work of like art like Sgt. Pepper's. But I'm talking about the White Album, by the way. Yeah, it's not a cohesive work of art. It's a mess. It has so many songs. It's a double album. It has yeah, 30 whole songs were written and recorded. And actually written, like, even more songs were left off. By coincidence, George songs. Wonder if this will become a trend. Yeah, so... It has... And it's a very controversial album, because it has those, really high highs, but it also has, like, some people would say it has those very low lows, that a bunch of filler, and I'll say, I somehow agree. But you know what? Despite this album being known as like this messy, disjointed album that's just too long, too much filler, you know, all these people like trying to turn it into like a single album, and like, fuck you, shut up, hear me out. First of all, this album has so many classic songs. You know, Back in the USSR and Dear Prudence are an amazing combo. Glass Onion is fucking great. Bloody Oblada is a bit cheesy, but I don't know, it sounds good. While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Happiness is a Warm Gun, Martha My Dear, Blackbird, Birthday, Your Blues, Everybody Got Something to Hide. Halter Skelter is a fucking metal song, and it has a lot of history to it, but it's so fucking cool, badass, and heavy. It has an amazing performance by Paul. It has a nasty riff. I love it. Yeah, and then I feel like it kind of fizzles out by the end. It doesn't have their stronger songs, but it has some underrated ones, you know. I like Savoy Truffle. I kind of like... I actually like the George songs that were kind of left here. I know one of my friends is like a super big fan of Rocky Raccoon. I think the one Pass Me By is charming, you know. It has a lot of it's so many songs, but they hit. They somehow, you know, it's by the greatest band of all time at the peak of their creativity. And even if you just leave them alone to make to just throw the song together of just songs that weren't like that developed, still though, you will still get an amazing stacked work, you know, just with a bunch, even though it's distorted and messy, it has so much variety to it, so many interesting, you know, songs and sounds. It just goes through it's really the fact it's almost so disjointed and messy and has and just bounces through so many genres is what makes it so interesting and such an interesting listen. It's such a fun listen to. It's super fun to listen to. I love it so much. And also, you know, because I'm a Beatles memer, this is where I was gonna get. Yeah, there's 3 songs that are infamous as like the worst Beatles songs ever, and I'm like, sorry. I kind of like these. I like the fact of Wild Honey Pie, Why Don't We Do It in the Road, and of course Revolution 9 exist. And you know, they're not like great, amazing songs, though. I think Paul gives like a pretty good performance on Why Do We Do It in the Road for like no fucking reason. I kind of like it for that. But yeah, Wild Honey Pie is just fun nonsense, and I think it adds to the flow of the album, to the chaotic flow of the album. So does Why Don't We Do It in the Road. And Revolution 9, you don't really think about... People say it kind of like it's a waste of space, you know, on the album. I always skip it. I would probably always skip it myself because it's a lot. It is a 9-minute, well, 8-minute sound collage, you know, made by, you know, John and Yoko, of fucking course. Just taking all those tapes together, throwing it into the machine and just fucking reversing, speeding up, doing a bunch of fuckery on it, and just making this avant-garde, kind of like ominous, terrifying piece, you know. But it's also, honestly, you know what? Hot take, I like Revolution 9. There you go, I said it. I like it. It's not the most pleasant listen ever, but it's such an but it has this atmosphere. And it's such a cool listen, I think. It's just it's a song you have to hear at least once, and it's like, holy shit, it's just a lot of stuff, and it's surprisingly, it has a structure. It feels like it has a structure because it always comes back to, you know, that back and forth from the chaos and all that to number nine, and that piano and stuff like that. It always... But it has all those, you know, memorable sections, you know. This song is oddly quotable and all that, you know, because of some of the... Especially if, you know, if you're in the Beatles, like, meme circle, you know, r/Beatles circle jerk and all, you know, you're gonna fucking think of the Watusi, the twist, and take this, brother, may it serve you well, and all that. You'll think about... These will fucking stay in your mind, you know. You'll want to quote these. This is a big old fucking shitpost, but at the same time, it's a work of art. I don't know if I'm big into avant-garde or whatever. Probably not, but it's something you have to hear. And also, its placement is perfect because it's put after all of these songs. It's at the end of the album, straight up. So yeah, don't fucking complain that, you know, it wastes time. Of course, it would have been cool if you had George, you know, with Circles and that other one. What George songs were scrapped on this album? Demos. What was actually scrapped? Yeah. Mary Jane, not really. Yeah, Circles is great. Sour Milk Sea, I've heard. Not Guilty was the song I tried so hard to record, but they never really could. I never really heard those songs about besides Circles, and I think, yeah, they could have made a good addition to the album, but Revolution 9 just being at the end, we've thrown everything already. They push so many boundaries. They're like, fuck this shit. Let's end this on a fucking event. And it comes right after the really chill and pretty crybaby cry, and then, you know, can you take me back? Can you take me back? And then it's immediately followed by a beautiful Disney-esque ballad with a orchestra and stuff. That's like a lullaby sung by Ringo of all people. It's kind of like the comfort, you know, your dad comforting you after you've had a nightmare and you pissed your pants as a kid. It's like that moment, you know. It's such a unique combination of it's such a unique way to end the album. It's probably my favorite ending to an album or a Beatles album besides one. Of course not. Of course there's. And also, again, I could have, if you want me to elaborate on, I think I've already gone on and on about this album for a while, but, you know, fucking hell, like, back in the USSR, super energetic and stuff like that. Dear Prudence is an epic, you know. Of course, While My Guitar Gently Weeps is so fucking beautiful. Happiness is a Warm Gun goes so hard. Oh my god, I love these songs so much. I love this album so much, dude. It's S tier. It's going above Sgt. Pepper's Suck My Balls. Yeah. This would be my favorite Beatles album if it wasn't for one. I think I already spoiled you on this one, but if it wasn't for one Beatles album, it would definitely be my favorite. It is a work. I had a blast listening to this. Fucking give it a listen. Even if it's long as hell, it flows. It's an experience. You should absolutely listen to this album. I love it so much. Oh yeah, so their hot streak kind of ends there. This is the one album that people don't really want to count, which is Yellow Submarine, which was a soundtrack to their animated movie. And the last they made. Kind of. Because they had to let it be documentary after that. And then, which was remade into Get Back. Yellow Submarine. Let's talk about this. So it's not much of an album. That's why people don't really want to count it, because it is really not much of an album. Half of it are songs by the Beatles, and the other, I mean, they had to throw. There's like a full score with all the songs. I think they made a full soundtrack later with all the songs that appeared in the movie. But here, it's only they have one side, which is a few Beatles song, and then a second, which are like the George Martin score. So it's most people, they really put it as like their worst album because it's not much of an album itself. Even on the original Beatles songs, they start with Yellow Submarine and end with All You Need Is Love, which are like good tracks. They already released on albums and they weren't that great. It's not like they were singles or anything. And also, All Together Now is one of the originals and it's not that great. It's a baby song. But do not fucking sleep on Only a Northern Song, Hey Bulldog, and especially It's All Too Much. Well, Only a Northern Song is a bit too weird for its sake, but Hey Bulldog, that riff. And then the bass throughout. I fucking love Paul's bass playing. I always forget how great it is. It's a fun song, and then It's All Too Much has those beautiful like guitars. It's a bit psychedelic, but it's also it sounds so good. It's one of George's best songs. It's on this album of all things. Again, Beatles in their prime right there. This was actually written and recorded before the White Album, I think. And then even on the second half of this album, which I think, you know, by the end it's a bit of a slog because it's just fucking an orchestral score for the movie. But I kind of like Pepperland, and Sea of Time is kind of unique. I like how they reprised the theme for Yellow Submarine at the end, you know, kind of neat. But yeah, I think this album is actually really overhated. I cannot blame people for saying, you know, it's not much of an album. It shouldn't really count. But I think it should be given more credit. All things considered. So to me, this is going into C tier. It would probably outdo Please Please Me for me. But again, it fizzles out. I think the first half, it's songs you've already heard before. The second half of it kind of fizzles out. But again, just listen to Only a Northern Song, Hey Bulldog, and It's All Too Much. Please do. Those are amazing songs. Finally, okay, so I've praised Abbey Road's early in the video. Unfortunately, this is made to be this is a stream style fucking video, so just me talking and chill, so I won't cut this. But I mean, I already praised Abbey. I already kind of like hinted on my connection to Abbey Road, but yeah, I've praised the. I meant to say the White Album is I've already praised so much. And I said it was almost my favorite, but you know, so. But I think you guys I've already hinted at which album is actually my favorite Beatles album. It is Abbey Road. Immediately put into S tier. It's an album, as I said, you know, my dad got the DLC for Beatles Rock Band, which had 3 albums as a whole. It had Rubber Soul, Sgt. Pepper's, and Abbey Road. And since his favorite album was Abbey Road, I think, yeah, by the way, this is also my dad's favorite album. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess take that as you will, but, you know, some people are just influenced by their peers, you know, when it comes to music and stuff like that. Gotta give him credit for kind of like kickstarting, you know, my interest in music by, you know, buying this giant box of plastic instruments. Thanks, Dad. And yeah. Honestly, but yeah, I have heard all these songs so much over the years. I think I've played them all back then, and then I revisited this album later, last December, and I fell in love with it all over again. It is an amazing album. It's them at their best, sounding their best. At this point, they've gone away with all the experimentation and the weird shit. Well, except like trying to implement like a Moog synthesizer on some songs, but it's really no bullshit, you know, no, just me and the boys just going in the studio, writing some damn good songs, you know. Simple, it's simple, but it's really polished, and it's so well made and stuff like that. Come together. What a way to open. Is a great opening. It's not my favorite because it has those weird lyrics, but it's a bop, you know. It has that iconic bass line. And that drum fill. It's a beautiful. I kind of like how this album like kind of has like, it has a great guitar sound to it. By the way, I love this is really a more them going back to just doing rock. And by the way, this was actually the last album they ever recorded. Their next album was actually recorded earlier, but was released later. So technically, this is like this is where it ends. This is their peak. This is like so basically they just, you know, really went away on a high note, which is an amazing, you know, an amazing thing. Like they left in their prime, just because they couldn't stand being with each other at this point anymore. At this point, just wanted to do shit on their own. But still, they gave us this fucking amazing swan song, you know, with that, and George fucking finally stands out with Something. There's a beautiful love song, you know, with a beautiful melody. Everything is just so it really works. You know, it's not too much. It's a lot. It's very sprawling, but it's not too much. You know, it's still very driven by, you know, drums, guitar, bass, an amazing bass. And then the orchestra only comes in at the end. Maxwell Silver Hammer is probably the worst song on the album. That's that's like a full, that's not like part of like, we'll talk about that later, but it's still kind of, it's a bit dark as well, because, you know, it's like a guy just killing people with a hammer, but it's so playful for some reason. This song's kind of infamous as well for how many takes they took of it. But hey, they only took 3 days to record it. Big deal. In the words of Paul. Yeah, but this song is actually kind of charming. The fact it's the worst song of the album just really says a lot. Even though it's a bit weird, you know, it kind of it's playful and it's set so sung so playfully and whimsically. It has the weird. It's really the one that features the most synths for some reason. But you know what? It's charming. It's catchy, and it's kind of a meme. Especially because of Get Back, because they play it a lot with that anvil and stuff like that. It's a fun song. Well, fun and dark as shit, but come on. Oh Darling is such an amazing blues performance by Paul. You know, Paul has a fucking... I think he also developed a lot as a vocalist, but, you know, is he the best singer in the Beatles? That might be the case. Because that vocal performance, you know, he goes so hard, you know, and that beat, you know, that groove it has, you know, it's just a great song. Octopus's Garden. Some people would say, for a while, it was like not a very liked song, and I'm like, fuck you. This is Ringo's best song, first of all. I mean, there's not a lot to go off, but also, just shut up. Like, it has amazing guitar work. It has so many cool effects to it. It's playful, it's chill. Oh my god, it's just such a good vibe. I love Octopus's Garden so much. And then I Want You See So Heavy. You know, how it alters between that dark, heavy guitar riff and then those very groovy, bluesy jam sections. I want you. Dun, 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 and then a great vocal performance by John. It's great. It's repetitive, but it's amazing. And then the way it ends, how it builds, you know, and then the wind comes in. It's an amazing moment, and then it ends like that. And then you flip to side 2, and then immediately it's Here Comes the Sun, which is one of the most beautiful, again, by George. And it's one of their most beautiful songs ever. I never noticed because I thought it was just a generic happy song, but no, it has so many layers, you know, so many, like it builds so well. I never really recognized its beauty until very recently, but it's such a good fucking song. Because it's like the Beatles being like, fuck it, let's just do an amazing showcase of our harmonies right there. And it's the big fucking, like, you know, it is the last thing before what is basically, to me, it's their real magnum opus of a song. It's not a song because it's a few people. I mean, if you don't, I guess if you don't take it as like what it is, it could come off as like, you know, a mess of like unfinished songs. So those songs are actually already pretty well crafted, but it's actually a bunch of scraps they were working from the Let It Be sessions, by the way. Again, if you watch Get Back, you can already like fuck with a few songs on Abbey Road, as already mentioned on Maxwell Silver Hammer and also on Octopus's Garden. But yeah, they were actually starting to work on a few songs from this piece. What ended up being this piece, this medley, even you can call it. It's called the medley. It's the greatest thing the Beatles have ever done. I have heard it. Probably nostalgia is connected to it, but I've heard it since I was 5, and wanted to listen to it over and over and over. I know every part by heart. Everything just flows together so well, and it's, you know, it's a lot because again, it's the Beatles in their prime. You know, you gotta love You Can Never Give Me Your Money, just kind of like building up, and then Sun King, and then Me, Mr. Mustard is kind of the weakest point of the album, but then immediately like very energetic Polythene Pan with that solo, and then She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, and then the epic ending, you know, Golden Slumbers, and into Carry That Wig, and then the end, which is just them like jamming Ringo with his drum solo, and then, you know, that epic guitar solo, and then and just ending it with the statement of, you know, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. Sorry for butchering the guitar line, but I can't go that high. And then you think the album's over, right? Well, you're wrong, because they actually had a bit of the medley, like, left over. Like, they just scrapped, and they threaded the end of the tape, thinking no one would notice. Whoops, here's your majesty. It's a charming little acoustic ditty, you know? It's like the weird coda at the end. I kind of like it. I kind of like how it is. But my god, the medley is just... I never really... It's hard for me to describe shit like this, describe music, but... The medley is an absolutely monumental, iconic piece of music, and is my favorite. If I could just... I don't think it really counts as a singular song, but if you can let me just say that, it is my favorite piece of music by the Beatles. Probably my favorite piece of music ever. For me, is the one I have the strongest connection to. And yeah, Abbey Road, as much as I love the White Album, it is my favorite Beatles album. But it's not the last thing they released as an official album now in it. So yeah, a bit after they broke up, they were also working. They kind of like decided to release this thing they had been working on, you know, in early 1969, with you know, trying to do a documentary about them writing an album and then performing it. You know, doing a big whole reunion performance. Huh? Interesting, huh? And they, yeah, but it was a mess. We had fun doing it, but, you know, it was a mess. So, you know, just said, fuck it. Just gonna perform a few, you know, cool songs we wrote on the rooftop at Abbey Road. We might even put them into an album. Actually, they did finish the album, but they had to shelve it, you know. I don't know why, but I feel like at this point, maybe they knew this wasn't, like, the strongest work. But yeah, then a year later, I think around the time they officially broke up, they came back to those tracks, and then they called in Phil Spector to overproduce the shit out of them with a stupid ass wall of sound. And they also recorded another song, I Mean Mine, and then they released it along with the documentary, which, you know, unfortunately is also... The original Delebi documentary is really based like that first day, that first week. That was very messy and was just a lot of them bitching, and this is where a lot of the narrative about the Beatles breaking up kind of was settled. But thankfully, because of the Get Back movie, just taking this just couple hour thing and then just making it like tripling the length, even or more. Really let it, like, you know, just show that was actually, like, they actually had fun, you know, doing this. It was just, you know, a thing that was a bit over ambitious that they still came out good, you know. And I think another thing, you know, can let people appreciate this album a bit more is Let It Be Naked, which is an album that strips out the production by Phil Spector and tries to attempt you know, a better flowing track list, and adds the other song they performed on the rooftop that was a single. I think was a B-side of all things. I don't know what one was a single or the B-side, either Get Back or this one, but yeah, Don't Let Me Down. But yeah, but honestly, this album, I don't think it flows that well. It has some filler, it has some bizarre production choices, but come on. Two of Us is, oh, it's a jam. I love it so much. These songs they wrote and recorded on the rooftop were a bit messy. They have very weird, nonsensical lyrics, unfortunately, and they're also very blues jammy. But they're catchy and they're fun. I love Dig a Pony, One After 909, I've Got a Feeling. I'm a bit sick of Get Back, honestly. But it kind of goes hard, you know. I love how I like the addition of, what's his name? Oh my god, I already forgot it. Billy Preston, yes, Billy Preston. And how apparently he really added, like, you know, made the vibe, you know, of recording the album better, and he really adds a lot with this electric piano and stuff. And it's really just a bunch of great songs, and I even like them in the studio stuff, like Across the Universe is beautiful, I Mean Mine, my favorite cut off of it. Let It Be is a classic. You know, the song that Paul wrote while I was sleeping, you know. Cool. Long and Winding Road, unfortunately, is not one of my favorites because either way, it's just the production is too much on the original, and on the other, it just feels so empty because it doesn't get going. I'm as someone who loves drums so much and like the rhythm, you know, to a song, you know, the song just never. Whoops. The problem with the song is it's just so slow and it never feels like it really pays off at any points. It's just kind of a slog, fortunately, but it's really pretty. It has a really beautiful melody, but I'm not a big fan of it. For You Blue is kind of fun, and yeah, I don't think it's like the strongest ending ever because again, on Naked, they ended with the title track, and I think that's maybe a better take. And yeah, of course, Let It Be is surrounded by Dig It and Maggie May, which are like weird. You know, it's Back to the White Album on an album that, you know, is like half the length, it's like a third of the length. Why though? I mean, they're kind of fun, especially Maggie May, but why? Again, could have given us Don't Let Me Down. You put the actual single on it. Why let it only stay a beast? What the fuck ever. Besides that, yeah, I think the only other con is like, besides the flow of the album and stuff like that, it is really the Phil Spector production is so over the top. It kind of muddies up everything. It's just like, it doesn't fit, dude. You're not George Martin. You don't know how to fucking work with, you know, this guy I don't think really knew how to really work an orchestra with the Beatles, you know, something more subtle, which works so, but it's also so more efficient. The Beatles, like, putting an orchestra in the Beatles is not an issue. But come on, dude, I think you're overdoing it. But apart from that, I feel like I really like the songs. Come on, man. They're a bit messier. They're not as like fully formed, I feel, because they kind of just threw them together within a month, which is impressive. I think once you watch Get Back, you kind of learn to really appreciate this album and these songs. And yeah, I like it. I think it's a good album. I don't know if I like Naked that much better, honestly. So maybe the songs do have something to do with it, but honestly, it's a pretty good album. And I think it's going to go in B. It's a high B, but it's a B. So it's not like, yeah, you would love to believe that they ended at their best because at their peak, but to be fair, they did. But at the same time, I guess you could only, like, you kind of wish for that, but also, I mean, you could still consider Let It Be like a coda, you know, a thing that, you know, they were like, let's release this, you know. We already released Get Back. I think people would kind of get a kick out of it. So, yeah. This is the Beatles' tier list. Yeah, not the Beatles' tier list. It's my tier list of the Beatles. Yeah. I don't know. So, go ahead and roast me in the comments. Or whatnot, but about all my shit takes and how fucking so much better Revolver is, or whatever. But yeah, this is my opinion, but it's the internet, so hey, hope you like it, you know, fucking and stay tuned for if you know, subscribe and stay if you want to fucking see more shit from me, you know, because I might make more of those. Gee, I don't know which band could I tackle next. There's so many of them. Anyways, see you guys.